My family cut me off years ago, over false RP allegations from my ex. Now they're trying to come back into my life, unaware of the new life I built without them. My family abandoned me years ago, and my ex falsely accused me of rape. Now they want to reconcile. But by now I've already shown them the wonderful life and family they missed out on. My ex-girlfriend cheated on me. After I found out and confronted her, she panicked and told nearly everyone we knew that I had raped her to cover up her cheating. I was placed in custody during the investigation, but at least there was no evidence. My parents had already disowned me, and most of my friends had distanced themselves from me. I wasn't even proven innocent by a jury, so my parents still believed I was a rapist who had simply gotten lucky. My best friend began helping me behind my parents' backs, and eventually I ran away. I had nothing to lose since nobody liked or even approached me, and my college barred me from attending lessons, only emailing me the work and bringing me in for exams. I went as far away from that town as I could, and got an apartment. After working some community jobs to earn money, I managed to stabilize myself. After a while I decided to change my name, because I had come to hate looking at it. For some reason I still don't fully understand. It helped me start with a clean slate, and I made a few new friends. I went back to university. Again. I don't know why I did it. I was still buried in debt, and incredibly poor looking back. But I finished my degree in teaching, and moved far away to a country on the opposite side of the globe, where I live now. I got a nice apartment, and settled into my new job. Eventually I met a girl who would become my wife. At first, I couldn't trust her, but after realizing how patient she was with me, how I would flinch if she tried to touch me, or start fidgeting when she got close, I fell head over heels for her. She eventually gave birth to our twin daughter and son whom I adore and would defend to the edge of the universe. Her family got used to me very quickly, considering I was a foreigner and not very trusted at first. Still, they treated me well, and I slowly remembered what a loving family actually felt like. Now I'm living in a nice house with both of my children, and my wife and I are very happy. That was until last night. I was playing on our PlayStation with my son while my wife and daughter were in the garden. There was a knock on the door, and when I opened it, my father was standing there. He smiled weakly and began to speak, but I slammed the door so hard that I scared my son. I took him to his room and called for my wife to take our daughter to bed. She was freaking out and so was I. My father kept knocking on the door, and I just broke down in that moment. My wife comforted me and then answered the door for me. She asked who he was, and he said he was my father. I had only given my wife a vague background about my past, but she had always felt nothing but sorrow for me. She looked furious, understandably, and began screaming at my father for abandoning me and everything that happened. After she calmed down, I told her to let him in and to go to the kids' bedroom to keep them busy while I spoke with him. He said he had been doing my ex-girlfriend a favor by clearing some things from her phone. While deleting messages, he came across a conversation between her and the guy she had been cheating on me with. In those messages, she expressed guilt about ruining my life, and said she wanted to take it all back. My father didn't confront her because he wasn't ready to reopen a dead situation, but he quietly began searching for me so he could tell me that he believed me. I don't even know how he found me, and honestly I don't care. He's here now, and that brings me to the part where I need help. I don't know what to do. After walking through some random streets, and thinking about my options alone, I've come to a few conclusions, but I'm not sure what the best decision is. Should I turn him away and tell him to go back to our country and leave me alone? Should I reconcile with him and tell my mother? If there's a better option, please let me know. I'm stressing out badly right now, and I'm planning to take the day off work tomorrow. My father is staying in an apartment nearby, so I'll probably go to him with my answer. Thanks in advance. Comments Gentius. He said he was doing your ex-girlfriend a favor by clearing things on her phone. Doesn't that seem odd to you? Why would he still have contact with her? Why would he be snooping through her phone? People who are just trying to help don't break into phones. This is a red flag. The man disowned you, still has contact with the woman who ruined your life, found the truth by snooping, and somehow tracked you halfway across the globe. Is this the chaos you're ready to bring into your family? T2_3454 RP, you're right. Not much of it adds up. It's such a messy situation, and I hate being put in this position. I'm struggling to find the right words to say to him and how to answer everything. Random_questioners_master_bass_giver 26. Oh sweetie, this was really brutal to hear. People who make false allegations should be sued and jailed. It ruins people's lives. This situation is absolutely ridiculous. The best advice I can give is to keep him out of your life. He was so willing to abandon you so quickly, without even taking the time to talk things through with you. Not to mention, You're already happy with the life you have with the first. You can choose to forgive whoever you want. But I can't help wondering what his motive is for trying to reconcile. Best of luck, dear, and thank you for sharing your story. T2_3454 OP. Thank you. Honestly, I would like to go down the eye for an eye route and simply not let him anywhere near my family. I'm not the most forgiving person. And in retrospect, he has to live with the consequences of his actions. Ballistic Pineapple. This is the first time I've ever responded here. So I can't say this is good advice at all because this is really only something you can answer. This is so much to have thrown at you all at once. I think having your father go back home would be good, giving you time to fully decompress and understand what's happening. You can always reach out to him if you're ever ready, but having this situation forced on you isn't the best. This is something you should have control over. This is your life now, and you get to decide how this situation is handled. Think about what would give you the most control, so you can process this information and come up with a plan. Do it at your own pace, and take as much time as you need. T2_3454 OP. Yeah, in the end it's going to be my choice about what to do. I've accepted that much. My son asked me who he was a few hours ago, and I can't even muster the courage to tell him it was his grandfather. More info. I know it ultimately comes down to whether I want them in my life or not. I know I won't receive a definitive answer to all my questions. I guess I'm just trying to wrap my head around everything while piecing together different perspectives from different people. Looking back, I'm baffled as to why they dumped me so easily. Maybe she fabricated some fake texts, but she would have shown them to the police. I vividly remember the police saying there was little to no evidence supporting her claims. Not much of it adds up, and I still struggle to connect the dots. Not that I want to. Sometimes it all blends together like a bad dream. Thanks anyway. I'll reach a decision eventually. Update 1 to it. Hi everyone. I'm sorry that I haven't said anything recently. I've come to the decision that I will not reconcile with my father. I simply couldn't find it in myself to forgive him. Some of you might want to know how it went, so here's what happened. The day after I made the post, I visited my father at his hotel, and told him that I wouldn't reconcile with him, or pursue any sort of relationship. He had tears in his eyes. But he understood. He told me he had informed my mother about what happened, and had cut my ex-girlfriend off from the family entirely. As many of you questioned, I asked him why they were still in contact with her. He said she apparently felt too guilty to let us go. I'm not very inclined to believe that, just like many of you, but it's enough closure for me. Apparently my mother didn't take the news well, and tried to get my phone number, but my father refused to give it to her. I'm not sure how much of what he said I can truly trust, considering I feel most of it could be a ploy to get me back into their lives. After they threw me out onto the streets like a rabid dog, the thought of it still makes me sick. My son did end up asking who was at the door, but I told him it was a colleague. When they're older and we go through tougher times, I plan to tell both of them about my past, so they know I understand. We're all fine now. It shook me up for a while, but I hope my father keeps his word about keeping my new life a sec. Ret tie. If anything else happens, I'll update you, but I think the matter is resolved for now. Thank you all so much for the support and kind words. If anyone you know goes through something like what I did, be there for them. You cannot throw them out onto the streets. Stay by their side and make sure they're okay, even if they have to move across the planet to find happiness. Update 2. I was living peacefully before my father found me, and it set off a chain of events that led to this post. Recently, I had an incident with my family involving them breaking a promise. It angered me deeply, and after a lot of thought, I decided to confront them directly. I flew back to my home country and met with everyone involved: my mother, father, brother, and even the girl who accused me. I was nervous, of course, but I was shocked when I realized I didn't really see them as family anymore. I recognized them, but I didn't see them the way I see my wife, my children, and my in-laws. My mother started crying and trying to apologize, but all I felt was disgust. My father comforted her, and my brother was the one who kept his composure and started the conversation. He asked me how. He asked how I was doing, and I responded by telling him to skip the small talk, and that this meeting was happening on my terms. I made it clear to all of them that I wasn't looking for reconciliation. I simply wanted closure. I also told them that if they tried to follow or chase me afterward, I would call the police. I asked my parents why they had been so quick to abandon me when even the police said there was no proof. They said they made a rash decision, and that seeing me in custody broke their hearts. I called them out on that, since they never even tried to defend me or stand up for me. Then I brought up something people had mentioned in my original post: my father looking through my accuser's phone. Nay. I asked him about it. He said she had come to him asking for help, clearing non-essential things from her phone, and that's when he came across the chat logs with her friends. My dad was always good with technology, so while the explanation wasn't particularly satisfying, I accepted it. Next, I asked my brother why he never contacted me. He looked surprised and said that he had tried many times, but I had ignored him. It turned out he was telling the truth. My brother had attempted hundreds of times to contact me, and even tried sending money to help me get out of rock bottom. He wondered why I never responded, and assumed I hated him because of everything that happened. As it turns out, my mother had blocked my contacts on all of her phone plans. Since she was paying for my brother's old phone plan, that meant I couldn't even receive his calls or messages when I was completely lost. That was the final twist. Then there was my ex. I first asked her why she actually did it. She said she was scared of what would happen and that she never stopped loving me through everything. She claimed that every therapy session made her feel even more guilty because she knew it was all fake. She then told me she hadn't dated anyone since, hoping I would come back someday so she could apologize, as if saying sorry would somehow reverse time and fix everything. Apparently that was also a lie, because my father said he had found chat logs showing 3 different partners she had while I was gone. My ex broke down crying and tried to hold my hand. She even had the audacity to ask for another chance. That only made me spiteful. I pulled out my phone and started showing them hundreds of pictures, milestones and happy moments from my children's lives. The good times with the family we built together. Visits to different cities, their first day of school, both of them, and my wife in my arms. I told my ex that this was the life she could have had if she hadn't been so stupid. I told my parents that this was what they had missed out on for not even listening to me. For a moment I wondered if I had gone too far, but then I realized that compared to what they had done to me, I hadn't. The visit wasn't entirely miserable, though. I met up with my old best friend and his family. They were happy to see me, and I'm still grateful for how they took me in when it felt like the entire world was against me. One day I plan to return to that country and show my kids where half of their culture comes from, but I won't let them anywhere near my family. As far as I'm concerned, my only family is my wife, her family and my children. I'd say it went pretty well. Edit. Since some of you asked, I decided to allow my brother to fly over and meet his nephew and niece. I completely forgot to mention that earlier, so apologies. I hesitated at first because my brother and I weren't exactly on great terms growing up, typical sibling rivalry and all. I don't have any social media, so it makes sense that he could only try contacting me through my phone number. By that point though, I had already changed my number, so it wouldn't have worked anyway. I've left the decision about going to the authorities up to my family. If they are truly remorseful, they'll report her. It's beyond me now. I might hear about it from my brother. Honestly, I'm very happy with how everything turned out. I'm truly happy with the family I'd built, and now that all of them are out of my life, I feel a real sense of peace. Story 2. I discovered my wife's affair through our kids, when they innocently told me about her secret friend, who played dad while I was away. So I asked my mother-in-law to help me catch them in the act. My ex-wife and I were married for 7 years. We were deeply in love, and I never imagined that a day would come when I'd be sharing my heartbreak story on a platform like this. My wife and I were former colleagues before I was transferred. We worked at the same organization, and were fairly close, but our closeness grew even stronger after I was transferred to lead a new branch of our company in a different state. She was one of the most intelligent employees we had, which attracted me to her. When we worked in the same office, I didn't have romantic feelings for her. I just knew that I liked her and that she was someone I talked to regularly. But a few weeks after I was transferred, things changed. I can't fully explain how it happened, but I found myself talking to her every single day. We kept this routine for months until I finally asked her out. Since she already liked me, she didn't need time to think about my proposal the way other girls might have. She simply said yes. We dated for 2 years before getting married. I resigned from the company I worked for after something happened there that forced me to leave. Fortunately, I found another job in our state shortly after the incident at the office and moved back. This second job was much better than the first, but the only downside was that it required me to travel regularly. In the first year of our marriage, my wife and I had a daughter, and in the 4th year, she gave birth to a boy. Becoming a father was one of the best things that ever happened to me, and I sacrificed a lot to ensure my wife and kids were comfortable. My wife was also a hard worker, so together we joined forces to raise our 2 beautiful children. We barely had any issues, and even when we did, it was nothing we couldn't work through. Aside from being a good father, I tried my best to be a good husband as well. Occasionally, I would take my wife out for special dinners, or get her whatever she wanted. Most of the time, we would send the kids to her mother's house and spend the whole weekend together. We did this occasionally because I didn't want us to become so overwhelmed with making a living that we forgot to enjoy our marriage as we grew older. We also tried our best to go on vacation every year, even if it was just for 1 week. I'm sharing all of this to show that I truly did my part as a husband. I treated my wife like a queen, with everything I did for her and for our kids. I never expected her to stoop so low and do what she did. Even though she was earning a decent amount of money, we split the bills. 6040. I took care of most things, and if anyone sacrificed the most during our years of marriage, it was me. I supported her through both good and bad times, including the period when she had issues with her mother. For 2 years, she refused to let her mother see the kids, and during that entire time I stood by her side. There was absolutely nothing I wouldn't do to support her. If she wanted something I wasn't comfortable with, whether it was too expensive or unnecessary, I would still do it just to make her happy. All this time, I believed I was simply doing what any husband would do for his wife and family. I had no idea I was wasting my time. I wouldn't have even known my wife was cheating on me if things hadn't unfolded the way they did that day. I was supposed to go on a very important business trip, but somehow my clients canceled the meeting on the same day. Since I had been traveling constantly, I barely had enough time to spend with my kids. Earlier that day, my wife and I had agreed that I would drop the kids at her mother's house, since it was on the way to the airport. But after the meeting was canceled 2 hours before my departure, I decided not to drop them off so I could spend some time with them instead. We played several games there and had a lot of fun. At one point, I made a deal with the kids during our game of tag. If they managed to catch me, I would give them ice cream. Giving them ice cream meant breaking their mother's rule about not having ice cream twice in one day. But we promised each other we wouldn't tell her. While the kids were eating their ice cream, I noticed them whispering to each other. When I asked what they were talking about, they made me promise not to tell my wife. That immediately made me curious, so I promised not to tell so they would open up. To my greatest surprise, the kids told me that my wife had a secret friend. Whenever I traveled for business, she would invite this secret friend over to pretend to be their dad until I returned. They even explained that the man would spend the night in our room with my wife. If I was scheduled to return in the evening of a particular day, the man would leave early that morning. When they told me this, I knew they hadn't made it up. It wasn't the kind of thing children could invent on their own. They said they told me because my wife's secret friend would secretly give them ice cream too. And they would all promise not to tell their mom about it. I was furious when I heard that a stranger had been coming into my house, feeding my kids, and that my wife had allowed it to happen. To avoid exposing what I had learned, I asked my kids not to say anything to their mom, and they promised they wouldn't. Later that evening when my wife came home, I tried to cleverly get information out of her, but she didn't reveal anything. So I stopped. That night, while she was sleeping, I tried going through her phone, but I couldn't find anything, so I decided to catch her in the act. 2 days after my kids told me everything, I lied to my wife and said I was going on a business trip and would be back in 4 days. That morning she went grocery shopping and took the kids with her, leaving me at home to prepare. I told her I wouldn't be driving and would instead take an Uber to the airport, and she believed me. About an hour later, she returned from grocery shopping. Shortly after that, a man showed up at our house. From the basement window, I watched as my wife greeted him with a passionate kiss, before inviting him inside our home. She believed I was on my way to my business trip, and had no idea I was hiding in the basement. As soon as she and her lover stepped inside the house, I called her mother and told her everything. I asked her to come help her daughter pack her things and leave my house because our marriage was officially over. Then I ended the call and waited. Moments later I heard a car screech into the driveway. As soon as it stopped, her mother jumped out and began yelling and screaming. I'm sure my wife was shocked to see her mother there, but nothing compared to the shock on her face when she saw me come out of the basement. She was speechless and didn't know what to say. I was so disappointed that I couldn't even bring myself to question her or confront her lover. I simply told her to leave my house before I returned. And I took my kids out so they wouldn't witness how their grandmother would tear their mother apart. Later that week, I conducted a paternity test for my children, and we were a match. After that, I explained the terrible thing their mother had done by bringing someone else to pretend to be their father. I'm not sure they fully understood, but at least they knew why I divorced their mother. I hired a good lawyer who helped me gain custody of my kids. Now my children are all I have, and even if I ever marry again, it will only be when they are older. She has often tried to use the kids to talk to me on her behalf, but I have warned them about that.